So I know we know what Lagos Innovates does, but people like to hear from the horse's mouth. So before we delve into the questions proper, just want to hear from you what exactly Lagos Innovates does.
Thank you. Lagos Innovates is one of the cardinal units of LSETF, the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, and it was designed specifically to cater for the needs of the tech ecosystem. So while LSETF is supporting small businesses, both tech and non-tech, Lagos Innovates just takes care of the tech ecosystem. And what it does is to provide an enabling environment for people with innovative ideas backed by technology to be able to thrive. A space where they know that when they are in that space, when they take our programs, when they take our interventions, they have all that they need to be able to interact with the ecosystem. They can leave us and go raise funds. They can leave us and go and strike strategic partnerships. So, accelerating the growth of the tech ecosystem in Lagos.
Interesting. So I'm guessing it's one of a kind in Nigeria.
Yes.
I don't know any other government
No.
do something like that.
Even that government is doing it, then they basically copied us.
Well, a lot of copying has happened. So yes, let's go to policies now. We know this is something the Lagos government thinks will help the tech ecosystem.
Yeah.
But how far, have combined with this, how far do you think? How far do you know that tech policies have gone, in Lagos, and what can we do? What can the tech ecosystem, in collaboration with the government, do to make sure that there is consistent growth in the tech ecosystem?
Yes, you're right by the fact that the Lagos State government is very interested in the growth of the ecosystem because we understand the phenomenal economic benefits. We understand its impact on job creation, and we understand that it also creates avenues for innovation, both in private and public life. And a way in which the government can support is, like you mentioned, appropriate regulations and support and appropriate policies. So in terms of policies, for example, in 2019 we had the Lagos Innovation Master Plan, which was a document to say this is how Lagos State government is going to support the ecosystem. Part of the interventions from that was the Lagos State Science Research Innovation Council that basically funds and supports R&D in universities, because if the government is going to support the innovation ecosystem, the way in which we can put our money where our interest lies is to be the first to be able to catalyze that innovation. Another is the establishment of Lagos Innovates itself, which was a policy of the Lagos government to support the tech ecosystem. Finally is the domestication of the Startup Act in Lagos, which is also in line with the implementation of the Kacha Java project. And that project is saying, can we have our own Silicon Valley in Lagos? We call it jokingly the Yabacon Valley, which is going to be a place in Lagos where everything you need for a tech startup to grow is at your fingertips.
Yeah, so I like the name Yabacon.
Yeah.
But let's move. We know that AI is now the new talk of the town, and there was a national blockchain policy released just recently.
Yeah.
So with all of this in mind, AI, blockchain, all of that. How do we make sure that policies are put in place to make sure that we deploy all these things responsibly? We don't just because the whole world is adopting AI and blockchain, we should do the same. How do we make sure that we are in place, we are towing the right path, but making sure that these things actually have impact, economic impact. It's not that we're just playing around.
Playing around it. So I think you touched on one of the cardinal functions of government in any space, both tech and non-tech, which is how do we ensure that innovation, novel technology solves our problems, creates economic and social benefits, but also ensuring that rights of people, both customers and non-customers, are protected. And one of the things that the Nigerian government has done to also be ahead of several other governments on the continent is the national blockchain policy. Now, what the blockchain policy is saying is, one, how do we create a framework to adopt it into our own system? When we say adopt it, we mean adopting it both for private enterprises and also for public use. So private enterprises in terms of the fintech guys are going to use it for their transactions. Public, for example, would be how do we leverage it for things like identity management? How can even the public sector adopt it for efficient processing? The next thing is how do we use it as a form of innovation across the ecosystem? How can we ensure that young founders can leverage on blockchain, can leverage on tools like cryptocurrency, and be able to create innovative products to solve our own customer problems? The next is how do we now create a regulation around it so that, like I said, rights are protected. And in creating regulation around it is bringing stakeholders to the table. Stakeholders doesn't have to just mean the founders themselves. It would mean stakeholders even from the academia. What was research saying about the implication of this? Bring people like the like the Consumer Protection Agency into the room. Are there parts of this innovation that can, in a way, albeit indirectly, affect the consumer? So, and that is to ensure that we're not coming in. Policy is not coming in to stifle it. It's coming to say, see, we want you guys to bloom. We want to ensure that blooming, that growth is within is within the confinement of growth and also protection. And also because AI has grown to the fact that people say that it can mimic your voice. So the question is, if you're not careful, if that falls in the hands of kidnappers, it's over. So you can be at home and they can see they've kidnapped you, and you call and they say they're talking to you, and you're like, but I saw him yesterday. And then like, nobody kidnapped me, I was at home. But all that, because if the government does not come in to protect that, if people then have issues with it, they then say, we're going to be when they are and don't forget that, like I always say, innovation is always ahead of government. It is now our duty to ensure that while innovation is ahead, can we follow to ensure that at least we guide it? And government can also be ahead of innovation by creating environments like what Lagos Innovates does. You have an idea, come into the space, let's help you incubate it. In helping you to incubate those ideas, we now have a knowledge on what you're doing. We then ask ourselves, okay, let's start getting ready for regulations to go. So AI is here to stay. We clearly cannot fight it. And our role in government via the blockchain policy and other tech policies that are going to come and also in the works is how do we ensure growth, development, protection of rights.
Now, picking one point from there, mentioning the consumer, you make sure that the regulations are actually affect the consumer positively.
Yeah.
Many people don't agree with that, especially with the policies that have been released. But that's another conversation.
Yeah.
We know that Lagos Innovates saw something, maybe challenges that they are seeking, to solve. So what are those challenges that you saw, that Lagos Innovates saw, LSETF, and what are they doing about those challenges? How are they trying to overcome these challenges?
Okay, you're spot on by the fact that Lagos Innovates is out here to solve a problem, and that is backed by the fact that before Lagos Innovates was even before the framework was established, we had a consultant go into the ecosystem to see what problems are there, how do we need to solve them sustainably. So we saw challenges around three major stakeholders. One, startups themselves. Two, hubs and workspaces. And three, talent. So startup themselves is we had people with ideas who needed a place to refine those ideas, who needed hand-holding at some point, because anybody can want to change the world. Like they say, if you know where you're going to, you're almost there. Or if you know where you're going to and you know someone who has been there and is willing to hold your hand on that journey, then you're there already. So that is what the Idea Hub program is set to achieve. Early stage founders, idea stage founders, come into the room. We take you through master classes. What is even a startup like? What is an MVP? How do you go to market with your product? How do you manage operations as a founder? How do you manage your mental health as a founder? Because most people leave paid employment to be an entrepreneur. They assume that it's Eldorado. No, you work harder as an entrepreneur than you were working as an employee. So how do we do that for them? How do we ensure that we build their capacity to launch their ideas and to create solutions that will change Lagos and also the world? The next is we're a developing country. We understand that we still have infrastructural challenges. Basic things like internet and electricity that are a given in developed countries are still a challenge for us here by virtue of our growth. So that was what informed the intervention called the Workspace Voucher, which is you're a startup founder, even at idea stage, pre-seed stage, you need a place to go in, sit down, connect to the internet, get a space and work. But affordability is also the next challenge. So we now give you, say, apply to us, we look at your ideas, we think it's good. we give you a voucher. With that voucher, you go into any of our partner hubs, about 57 of them in Lagos today, show them that voucher, they allow you go in. So what they do is, okay, if it's going to cost, to use the space is 10 naira per month, the voucher gives you like 7 naira discount. So you're only paying the 3 naira on top. With that, you're in a space where light and internet off your problems. So you're also in an innovative environment. There's opportunities for vertical and horizontal integration. Someone might be building the next solution that is going to be an add-on to yours. And also, you can also find your customers in the hub. I used to work with a startup where our first customers were startup founders who went to the same accelerator with them. So it was like, you have employees, you need this product. So, and then our problems were solved by their own solutions. That's because that was something that brought them together. So that's the workspace voucher for startups. Now, we also remember that the hubs and workspaces have a unique business model. They are not typical SMEs, but they also need capital to expand. How do they do more with where they are? And also, the government is not in position to build hubs and tech workspaces across the states. No. The private sector should do that. But what can we do? We can only support them with access to capital. So that's where our hub loan program comes in. We give you a loan as a hub or a workspace, 9% interest rate per year. You can access as high as 25 million naira, and you can pay within 3 years. Patient capital, almost like an investment. So that these workspaces can do more for these founders, for the ecosystem. Because when Mark Zuckerberg came to Lagos, he went to the hub. If you come to say you want to understand Afrobeat in Lagos, you go to the further shrine. So the hubs are our own ecosystem shrines, and they must do more. So that's what we do for the hubs. Then the final one is what we do for talent. I say that in the next few months to years, the greatest headache of founders will not be Series A, B, or C. It would be people to build with. It would be the developer to help. It would be digital marketer. It would be the product manager. And that is where we are coming in. How do we provide access to funding for people to be able to go and take these courses? And also it's an avenue for them to not only get jobs and economic benefits, it's not that some of them also become founders. There's something they call the Paystack Mafia, where we have about 8 to 9 Paystack employees who have now founded their own companies, and Paystack itself has invested in those companies. So in working with talent is ensuring that we have people to help existing founders. Also, we also have a patent pipeline of new founders in the ecosystem.
Let me pick it up from there. So you mentioned hubs, talent, but how do we ensure that the policies or your policies are hitting the right button? They're not just general, they're not just generic rather. They're hitting the right button. So you're working based on, or you're existing based on market, research, based on conversations, with the market. It's not just generic. So how do we ensure that you're actually working and you are taking people off the streets? You're reducing unemployment, you're helping the tech ecosystem. It's something that is actually impact.
Yes, so we've had success stories of startups. The quite popular EdTech platform called Receiver was one of our beneficiaries. Supported him with workspace vouchers for a year. At the point where he was coming to Nigeria and needed a space to launch his product. We supported a startup recently that is providing tech for people that are blind, people that are disabled. Now we've also given, the state government has also given an all-expense paid trip to go and pitch at a KTEX event in Morocco. That's because we understand the fact that even if you're done with us, we need that hand-holding for longer. For workspace vouchers, we've issued 409 workspace vouchers for startups in Lagos, incubated 114 startups from inception to date. And we also do, because I went to policy school, so impact assessment is cardinal, especially if you're in the government or social impact space. So we follow their stories. And even if you notice, what we talk about the most about our beneficiaries are their success stories, are their impact, are the impact that we've had on them. So yes, we do follow at intervals. We have a strong M&E team, we have a strong data analytics team that ensures that whoever we support, we follow. And also, we follow up not only to learn success stories, but to also learn what do you need more that we don't even have presently. How do we innovate in our own solutions? For example, there is a nexus that is happening now between the creative ecosystem and the tech ecosystem. AI is coming to that space. Now there are discussions around how can you even invest in a musician and get your returns back. So there's that we are saying, okay, how do we go in there to support it? So we are following the market because we need to do what the market needs, or else we'll be dormant and we'll be less relevant.
That's interesting. That's interesting. But there's this issue of continuity. We talk about responsibility. We talk about accountability. There's continuity, which is almost non-existent in Nigeria. Anyway, I'm sure. I'm sure you not agree with that. So what? Following up from that, what is the succession plan for you? You're doing all of this. You're giving us numbers. But how do you make sure that this in the next 3 to 5 years, this is not dead or is dying? People already complain about Lagos Innovates. They used to be there before, but now they are non-existent. So what's the social plan for you?
Yes. So the popular prayer is, may we never have a better yesterday. We want to ensure that we keep doing better and we keep doing more for the ecosystem. So in terms of, I quite agree with you very, very strongly that when it comes to public administration, especially backed by political will, there's issues about continuity, because with different administrations comes different focus. Well, interestingly, we've survived the first transition when the former governor Ambody was there, we established it, and gradually someone who came in and continued with the support. And so we've survived the first one. These are two people with don't want the same party, will clearly have their own different focus, and they've seen that we key into their own mandate. And a way in which we also ensure our own sustainability and the likes is keep keep solving problems that are imminent in the ecosystem. Every politician wants to be known for solving problems and the likes, and if they find an agency that is doing that, they clearly would support. And also the second thing is that LSETF, that is the umbrella agency, is backed by law. Nobody can come in and say they don't want LSETF again or Lagos Innovates again. No. It's backed by law, and that is what we also clamor for other states. Let it not just be, the politicians want this and let us have it. Is it backed by legislature? Is it backed by law to act? When you have that, we are fine. And while that is happening, the next headache would then be funding and financial sustainability. And we for the past 5 years, we've shown the international community that we can deliver, we can solve problems. So we're currently and also improving our position on trying to ensure that we have support from the international, so that even when we have economic downturn where the government is struggling to support its critical sectors, we can have that inflow of support. And in terms of what we want to do more, is to be that cardinal, that first line agent of government that any startup founder thinks about. We want to create a Lagos where the only thing you need is the idea. Have the idea and bam, we take you off from there, and we won't leave you until you become a unicorn.
I have ideas.
You can come. We won't leave you until you become a unicorn, because that's exactly what we want to do. We want people to be comfortable. We want people to have that hope that if I have that idea, if I can change the world, leveraging technology and even innovation. For example, we have the next idea program, and I'm reading through ideas, and someone is trying to put AI into music, and I'm like, that is who we are looking for. Someone is trying to create the technology that you can buy from online. Someone is saying, so I think I read about this solution. I think about a solution where someone is talking about connecting real estate to monthly payments. What we have is pay your rent annually. So we had an idea where his one is pay your rent monthly. And so those are things that we are happy to support, because they're not only going to make money by being founders, but they're also going to solve our own imminent problems. And sustainability, like I said, backed by law, we always innovate. We are called Lagos Innovates, so we have another attitude than to innovate and to ensure that we keep being at the forefront and we keep responding to market.
That's interesting, very interesting. The last one, hopefully the last one. You mentioned something about emerging technologies, and we know that maybe next day now another tech idea will come up, and people start funding that one. We are still in AI revolution, and everybody's AI. Before you look left and right, it's AI. So yes, how do you ensure that you are following these trends, you're following these developments, you're not behind? I know you mentioned that innovation will always be ahead, but how do you make sure that you're following? You're catching up with these trends, and forming policies based on what or how it will affect consumers, positively. It's not that, as I use the word, I like to use the word generic. It's not generic. It's actually
custom made.
Yeah, there's impact. People are seeing it. They're not just Lagos Innovates is there, but what are they doing? How do you ensure this?
Okay. Like we both agreed, innovation would always be ahead of government, but it is government's duty to be a very close second, and even if possible, be a first. And one of the cardinal things that we as a government are doing is supporting what we call stakeholder engagement, which is being at the face of innovators. Not being there as contributors, being there as supporters, and not being there as, hey, they're coming again, they want to come and tell us to stop. So by being with them, we can already anticipate their needs. And also not only being with the startup founders, it's also create an environment where the regulators, the academia, the legal luminaries, the economic giants can come in together frequently and start to discuss ways government can support existing and can also project into the future, looking at the various components of the startup. So for example, we talked about AI. Clearly the economic benefits to it. But how can we ensure that we even have that benefits at home? Because the other of our startups that we think are Nigerian are not Nigerian startups. Most of them are US backed startups. So how do we ensure that the fresher ones are Nigerian backed? What kind of economic incentive do we put on ground? What kind of legal backing put on ground? And a typical example of that kind of environment is the Startup Act. And it was a perfect example of stakeholder engagement. We had people from across the academia, from the government, from the private sector, everybody come to say, how do we create a policy? How do we create something that will be backed by an act that will support our growth? So that's one thing that we do. Second is what we call being there at the very beginning, which is these ideas as they are coming up. I will be the first person helping to incubate them. Because when we are the first to incubate them, we then have that front view on the innovation. We have a front view on its exercise, and we can start even look about regulations with the founder, with the innovator, and that's what we do with the idea hub and work vouchers. You get the ideas, you come to us. So now I see a solution coming in terms of monthly rents for people in Lagos. Now I understand. So we're already thinking what kind of policies do we need to do so that we can help him to grow, but also ensure that the real estate guys will not come for him. Because it's being disrupted. Everybody is used to paying your rent. The landlord is sure that by January, February, that lump sum is coming to pay some school fees. I think that knows going to be paying every month. The money will finish before you know. So how do we ensure that we support them? Two is also in what we call consumer education. How do we ensure that even people are aware and are embracing new technology? Now, with the government saying there's a national blockchain policy and taking up the duty of educating, it means that people are not going to see it as alien. They want to embrace it. I say, oh yeah, we heard it on the news and blockchain is good for us. So yeah, like they say, kill on that, come. Now I understand that it's not. Or like if the government says nothing and all they see is, hey, they are coming. It becomes, they say you are coming. Are you sure you're even good for us? And so that's also one what you call it. Then I would do. And I think finally is protecting young founders. This is very important for us because in a capitalist economy, the big boys always want to remain the big boys. It's a government duty to ensure that via antitrust policies, via pro-competitive policies, we have environment for the new guys to come in, and that is ensuring that people are aware of alternative options. Now, imagine just like the iPhone system, where you watch a phone, if possible, a bag, they can even give you an iPhone brain to go with it, and it's all locked into a system. We are sure that we don't have that kind of system in Nigeria. While it's good for them, but we're sure that these people can still use other alternatives. Also, alternatives are then opportunities for other new sort of founders to grow. So in all of this, we are showing, most importantly, that we are at the forefront and we are seen as an enabler. The technology ecosystem before now sees government as, hey, they are coming with their hand like you tell us to stop. Yes, we've had examples that back their assertions. Typical examples of where government came in and bam, and like, but most of the time is, and that's why I also say that it's also at the behest of the founders to also ensure open line of communication with the government. In developed countries, we have what we call the lobbying sector. It's an industry on its own that rakes in billions of dollars because they know that if the guy in government doesn't understand what we do, because government needs to protect. So, for example, we have a light bulb you have a light bulb that you need 100 people to put on at once. You know that for that light bulb you're creating 100 jobs. Now you are saying you want to create an app where that light bulb will be put on by a robot. What you are seeing is innovation. What I'm seeing is unemployed people 100. That's what I saw. Unemployed are going to come and tell me, Honorable, yes, what are we going to do today? One guy said we should go home because of this. So how do we ensure that we support you so that you can grow fast, create opportunities for those 100 that are no longer put on the light bulb, but what else can they do? How do we ensure that those people put on light bulb before are equipped with new knowledge so that they can also get new jobs as you expand? So like we said, ensuring economic growth ensuring development of that space, ensuring that there's protection of rights, ensuring that we can harness it to solve social problems.
That's quite important. Everything you said is interesting, but collaboration is important. The government needs to understand the space. Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.